If I may, Charles Michael in Florida, regarding the constables, we have an immediate situation facing us here. If things get violent after this election, which they very easily could, maybe not immediately, but intermittently, this could occur. To create the system where we have, constables, it isn't going to take, it's not going to happen quickly. This is going to be something that, will grow organically. And unfortunately, that is not a quick process. So I'm trying to bring us down to reality because I agree with the idea totally. Self-governance in our own communities is a priority. Pardon me. However, reality is a reality that takes priority, because if you don't face the reality of the situation in its true form, then you're most likely to make mistakes and fall flat on your face with failure. So we've got to realize that creating constables and self-governing communities is not going to happen quickly. And we, I think, need to try to rationalize and realize that doing things in a realistic manner should be priority. I think getting people involved, getting people, somehow we need to come up with a marketing strategy, a Facebook style strategy, if not Facebook, some social media platform to market this campaign. We have a product. It's called Remedy and Freedom and Resolution for Justice. And we've got to figure out a way to get people involved and to get this ball rolling. That, at this time, I feel, and if anyone says that I'm wrong, please give me your evidence. But I think that is the priority right now, that we need to continue the structuring and strategizing of this concept of creating a court where we, the people, can examine criminal conduct by our governing officials and have due process. But we also must realize we do not have enforcement power. Eventually, we hope to have it in a lawful manner. But right now, we don't. So we must be realistic and examine what outcome do we expect to occur. And these are things we need to think about and rationally examine in an honest manner.
Can I respond, Michael?
I feel we're doing that. I'm not saying we're not doing that. Okay, I want to clarify. I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I don't think we're not doing that, but I think it needs to be a greater focus. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I beg to differ with your framing the issue that we can't do this quickly. I mentioned earlier about, I think it's in Minneapolis, where the police department has been dismantled and there's already people patrolling the streets without interference from anybody. Okay? If we sent those people badges and caps and T-shirts that say common law jurisdiction peace officer on them, I bet they'd start wearing them, and they'd move into the vacuum, and we'd have it right now in that city. Does that sound unreasonable?
There's something there.
If I may, I don't see them acquiescing to our T-shirts and badges. I think, they would probably feel that they're qualified within their own ability to make their own badges and their own T-shirts. I don't see why or how they would, all of a sudden feel that they need to wear our T-shirts and our badges. If they're doing what you say they're doing, then in a sense, they're already practicing what we're preaching.
Right, but
without
they're inherently on the front line of conflict, and they're doing it without any color of lawful authority whatsoever. We're the only community in the USA that seems to be talking about how to give them color of lawful authority to keep the peace in their own communities.
Could I chime in a little here? Just Chris in Las Vegas.
I guess so. Nobody else talking.
Well, being a former multi-jurisdictional law enforcement professional, perhaps my view is a little bit different, but I do know that an armed society is a polite society. I recall with some clarity that Curtis Stillway in New York, I think it was, created the Guardian Angels back, probably in the 80s, maybe the 90s, and kind of had a common law form of taking our own responsibility for self-policing in an area where the police have fairly fallen fatally short of performing to their expectations. And let me also say that if we consider that the Constitution or the Articles of Confederation or other documents are where the authority that our scriptural authority for coming up and beating our plowshares into swords to guard, protect, and defend our homes is part of what our duty is to protect our families from those who would prey upon us, whether they're swords or rifles or handguns, makes no consequence. It's the concept that they're right-minded men who are moral and upright, who are doing the protecting and defending, then there shouldn't be any great adversity to it. Only when they become corrupt and deviant and performing in their own self-interest and preying upon the people under the guise of protecting them does it become an issue. But as for me, whenever we talk about sanctuary zones, we're effectively talking about a free speech zone like they tried to do at the Bundy Ranch, which America is supposedly a free speech and we have a First Amendment. Although there are those in government that have ill intentions, like the Bush family cabal, who clearly said that the Constitution is nothing but a doggone piece of paper. If that's what you operate under, then you're asking for chaos in a lawless society, and that's pretty much where we are right now because we have foreign-funded groups by Chinese and other people of those that call themselves Black Lives Matter, Antifa, which are really fascist, disguised as anti-fascist. And, of course, we've got the corrupt Chris Wray, who's a do-nothing FBI agent, trying to claim that white nationalists are the real threat to America, which I haven't noticed any white nationalist groups doing anything out there. Even in Kenosha, I've got a document that's about 23 other cases besides John Beddock versus U.S. that tell us that we have not only a right, but in fact a duty to resist with deadly force if necessary, unlawful arrest and corruption and things of that nature. But this is really a dangerous time for America because the powers that be, the evil synagogue of Satan, is actually a march afoot, and they're masquerading as several different entities to try to provoke violent revolution in this country. And there is no such thing as a civil war. War is hell. It's death, destruction of people, humans, lives, property, and it takes lots of money, and the bankers are happy to show up after the fact and loan you all the money you want and put you in debt slavery to the rest of your life when they make reparations for healing what they paid to have done in the first place. And this is the dangers we find ourselves in right now, in my estimation. Thank you for letting me vent a little bit.
Can I add something, Michael Smith in Southern Cal?
Yeah, Michael.
There's 328 million people in America. 205 million of those are supposedly Christian. the Bible is very clear that Christians are supposed to obey Christ. The three most important commandments are to love God with all your heart, to love your neighbor as yourself, and not to covet your neighbor's wealth. The entire structure of military rule statutory government in America causes the government, through force, fear, and violence, to take your neighbor's wealth to support all the statutory programs, including public school. You send your child to public school, you're telling the government, go force your neighbor to pay for that. The point of my saying this is, let me catch my train of thought. Christians, the Bible is very clear that Christians are to obey God, not man. In fact, there are specific scriptures that say we are to obey God, not man. But the ministers at all the churches are telling everybody that Romans 13 says we are to obey the authorities. Now, that's not what it says. If you read Brother Gregory's book in Oregon, The Higher Liberty, it's in Romans 13, it's translated, the higher liberty is to follow Christ, to follow God and obey those rules. Now, how are you going to get, if you could get 205 million Christians to obey Christ and obey what it says in the Bible instead of being misled by their seminary corrupted teachings, they think they have to obey the authorities. Anyway, I'll shut up after that.
Here, here.
May I comment on that? This is Jim in Oregon again. What that man just said is just absolutely true. You have no idea how many judges I've heard use or misuse, misquote, misinterpret in Romans 13 almost on a daily basis.